The girl in the middle of this picture, Oyun Tsegianjuv, played a role in only 3 major movies throughout her career as an actress: The Mirage Above the Gobi Desert, The Forgotten Sons, and Five Fingers of a Hand, the latter of which we're going to talk about today. In this movie, she played a supporting role of an eldest daughter of a family. Her name is Surung. The protagonist of the movie, on the other hand, is a man named Shagdar. He is an antique item collector as a hobby and an engineer with the steel jaws that BP editors can only dream of as a full-time job. He has a big family of 7 people: himself, his wife Dolching, the eldest daughter Surung, and the 4 boys. Ulaanbaatar. No time to talk about who's who, because we have another character that needs a separate introduction: Hortla. Hortla is a literal puppeteer because she works in a children's theater. She is a lady of leisure. She likes to lounge around reading books, as she should. And in one of those exact days, a doorbell rings, disturbing Hortla's afternoon lounge. Who is it? And it's none other than our Mr. Steeljaws, Shagdar. He comes with a gift to her daughter, and although it may seem weird, she invites him over to the living room for a cup of tea, and when he sits down, glaring directly at him is a family picture of Hortla, her daughter, and her late husband. And before his moral compass could point him to the door and back to the work, back to light, and back to normalcy, he is already smitten with a kind gesture and a beautiful face of Hortla. So off the record, if a man was staring at me like how he's doing right now, I would be so scared, because it's just like I can smell a raging testosterone reeking from his eyes. And when I first watched the movie, I wondered if he was staring at maybe a painting or a furniture or a TV with such intent, but it's her, the Hortla, that he's locking eyes with whilst gulping down on a big pieces of apple with salivas jumping around like a crazy caveman. And luckily, another guest rings up on them, and Hortla rushes to the door. And it's Shagdar's son. He was out of breath to tell the toy he promised to give in lieu of the doll that he broke earlier is missing, and that he would give another toy. Hortla briefly mentions his father, and before she could finish, he rushed out the door saying his father was at work. And this reveals the reason why he's come to her, and he was not at work. And it really makes him uncomfortable, and he just stands there all dumbfounded. But instead of warding off the complete stranger away, she tries to open the window and struggles with it. You know, the window that she has probably opened many times before and knows how to open. And because Mr. Shagdar does not like to see women suffering, he helps her open the window, and in that little corner of the room is where they both give in to the mutual desire, a tempting tease of a taboo relationship. So if you see this scene from a different perspective, the way Shagdar approached her is just so, like, it's very intense. He touched her, like, without her consent. He turns her around, and mind you, it's the second time that they're seeing each other in the movie. Maybe in their movie universe, they've probably talked or like seen each other previously, but like this is the second time that they're meeting, and he just turns her around and pushes himself onto her, and it visibly makes Hortla so uncomfortable. For some reason, she just lets it happen and eventually ends up partaking in an intimate activity. I don't know, Hortla, I don't think is completely in the clear as well, but I just wanted to point out how a big man, when a lady was alone at home, just, you know, pushed himself onto her. So I think that's something to point out. Back at home, the same exact boy who's just being a tangled knot where every thread seems to cross is sick, and Dolching's waiting for Surung, you know, the eldest daughter. She essentially comes with rain dripping from her coat and tells her that her brothers were off to see Shagdar, who was at work. And Shagdar was at work with shame and frustration and this unknown feeling boiling inside him. These are just making him so agitated. But he still does not put away his habit of sexism. One moment he is kind enough to light up a cigarette for a lady colleague, and the next moment he throws a report that he was supposed to give to his male coworker. Because he's what's known as a Ulaanbaatar in Mongolian, and it crudely translates to a lamp boss. So does not mean he takes care of lamps, but he is in his career climbing stage, and he's like up the few steps. He's not a ram yet, but he's getting there. He works in a brick factory with his wife, but her wife is working in more of a assembly line, more of a physically demanding and dangerous environment, which is kind of ironic because Shagdar turns his wife's effort at intimacy down by saying that he was tired when he's the one sitting soundly and snuggling in an office chair when Dolcing is actually toiling away at work. Because when he closes his eyes, he sees Hortlo. I'm laughing because this scene is just such an unflattering angle for anyone, really. And anyways, when he opens his eyes, he sees his wife shedding tears, but he changes nothing. So time goes on. Hortlo and Shagdar are still fucking. Shagdar talks about how everything's bad at home and how he's only staying because of his kids, and he hates his wife, typical, affair man kind of stuff. But Hortlo lectures him about the value of having a family and how her parents never fought, how the compromise is key to life and all of that, whilst still linking with him the cognitive dissonance and the way she's trying to appear as a good person in all of this is just crazy. She maybe is like a puppeteer. I don't know. During a Saturday shopping, Dolcing confronts him and pleads him to think of his children and for him to stay. And he plays it completely dumb, saying, "What woman?" Because he is master of lies and secrecy and manipulation. He plays with words. In one of their rendezvous, Shagdar and Hortlo talk about their misfortune of meeting late and how his kids will see her, how he hates his kids as they're the only obstacle in leaving his wife for Hortlo, and how he picks up random fights with Dolcing because the power of love is changed him into this person. Hortlo retorts by saying, "Oh, you've probably said something similar to Dolcing when you first met. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you being like, I don't know." And he does not deny it at all. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't get offensive. He says, "The words I've said before take on a new meaning now, and it feels like I'm saying this for the first time in my life." So what do you say to that? So he is basically agreeing with you, but at the same time, he is taking control of the narrative and making it just so beneficial for him. So I don't know, he knows how to manipulate. He's good at it. But at the same time, I don't know if being good at a bad thing is a good thing. So, there's that. Eaten away with guilt, Hortlo decides to end things with him when he drops her off at her home, touching up her lipstick one last time and leaving him behind literally and figuratively. She waves goodbye and walks home in a pouring rain. But the camera pans down to her now empty seat to reveal the very lipstick she held in her hands a few seconds ago. She has a habit of forgetting things. She forgot her purse in his cart when he drove her and her daughter after the puppet play. And now, a lipstick. And guess who comes running to Shagdar with a red lipstick streak smeared on his face? That damn boy. Oh my god, every scene in this movie, he's always joyful, he's always oblivious to whatever's going on, he's just being his kid self, and that's really pissing me off. I don't know, because it's him that broke Gilde's doll, it's him who ran to the backstage where Shagdar saw Hortlo for the first time, it's him who said Gilde's father had passed away, it's him who saw Gilde and her mom Hortlo on the way and then invited them to the car. So Surun takes notice of this, but what can she do? Because he's already made up his mind. He leaves his family for Hortlo and he takes his little suitcase and dresses up and revs his engine, at which point his 4 kids, the males, mind you, push his car to a start, just oblivious to everything and the fact that their father has just left them. Next scene is a house party at Hortlo's place. Everyone's celebrating except Gilde, who swings the living room door shut, as she should. and no one notices it. And among the drinks and fun and sensual dance with his new partner, Shagdar's last remnants of moral compass stares at him in the mirror, and he tries to rationalize how he suffered and how he deserves to be happy. So again, every time I see this man in this scene, he's been in his elements. He's always taking care of things, always like making things happen for the benefit of himself. And I've never seen him having deep emotional. Well, I guess I did, but like he's having those very emotionally heavy moments, and turns out doing what he wants. So he's always making things happen for himself. He's not suffering at all. So after debating himself and losing it, he just bursts into frantic dancing, which Hartlaw finds like weird and awkward. You can even see it in the scene. And his new life is cozy. He is civilized. Instead of setting up a table outside and eating a hot steamed dumpling with his fingers, he now uses a fork and a knife and cuts his little food into bite-sized pieces, all in deafening silence. Back home, Miss Dalton gets out of hospital prematurely to get back to work because she's got to put food on the table. But the sadness, the grief, and loneliness over losing a partner, someone she loved, someone who she thought loved her back, was unbearable and palpable. She would sit outside her fence almost every night, but her eldest daughter took notice of it, and they would talk about whether Shagdar's gonna come back and how they want him to come back, but he never does. But when he does it, eventually it would be too late, as the sickness coupled with emotional toll takes Dolchen's life away. And even after her death, no matter how long they waited, Shagdar never visits back. But he wanders around in cemetery alone, riddled with shame, and cannot find the tombstone of his late wife. Things are not easy for the five. Surung drops out of her university to work in the position of her mom, and her younger brothers share a school bag on a different shift, and one of the brothers steals groceries from a store, and Surung has to sell her mother's sweater to make up for it. And they are talking about who needs to quit school to work a more physical labor job. With only her working not a single penny from their bum ass dad, they have no one else. And that no one else is a young man who pursues Surung. He's a tall and lanky dude with fashionably messy hair, but he wears his heart on his sleeve. Midwinter, Shagdar finally drops by. The purpose of the visit is to adopt the two youngest sons. They have an awkward conversation about it in the exact gir where Shagdar used to live with his wife. So a gir is our traditional accommodation in Mongolia. So it's easy to build, it's easy to break down, and it's like you can adjust it according to the season. So it's very, very useful for the nomadic people. And even in the city life in the 80s and 50s, 60s, 90s, 80s, even nowadays in Ulaanbaatar city, you find girs in the outskirts of the city, so it's still part of our life. So for more privacy, Shagdar and Dolchen would occupy the gir sometimes, and that gir now is abundant. It's like not taken care of where they were, as you can see in the scene. Surung refuses by saying you cannot cut 2 fingers off of a 5 finger of a hand, and asks them out. She is very kind in this scene. She's not really like being confrontational. She's not being me, I would say. Like, just find me in a situation with things broken apart just surrounding me, and me heavily breathing, hyperventilating, because how can you see a face of a fuck ass person after they left you and they come back and they want to take away 2 of your younger brothers, even though, like, technically, if you think about it, for better life, sending those 2 kids off to like well-off family would be a smart thing to do. Promise you, no one does that. We're animal at the end of the day. Pride and anger and injustice is a very strong feeling that helps us make decisions sometimes. So I completely understand her, and I want to commend her for his courtesy. Yeah, I would have attacked them. Like, on his way out, Shagdar sees 2 of his youngest sons, but he only talks to one. He does not care about the others. He has his favorite boy, of course. So more money issue arises as one of the brothers breaks the window of the neighbor after being tricked into hitting a ball that was full of stones. And neighbor comes and asks for the last few coins that they had rationed for groceries. And she talks about how she would put her young calves inside the pen and how they would be cold, in the middle of summer. Surung pleads to pay for the damage on her payday and asks for her to wait for a few days. The neighbor refuses and wants to get the payment at that moment. And with the knowledge that there is nothing else left to buy food with, Surung gives it all. After the neighbor finally leaves, her brother laments for not taking the money that Shagdar gave earlier, but Surung has no desire to beg for him and cries at her brother's lack of understanding that how he was the person who left them like a finished cigarette butt. And luckily time goes on and she finally starts seeing the guy who pursues her. And after all, he gave his younger brother a new school bag and called in an ambulance when she was falling sick. So Surung and the guy, Mr. Nerd, let's call him, and they have a cute little date in the children's park, walk around, just talk about lives and things like that. The way they treat each other, especially him to her, is so endearing. And at the same time, I love her jacket. And also... this is actually I have no idea what she was actually thinking about. It's not gonna work in terms of size-wise. She does not know how to use it. It's just silly but cute. So in Hortla's home, Girtle talks about being bullied about her kids because children would gossip about how she stole other kids' father and the fact that Shagdar came to them by himself. You go, girl, I love you. Hortla rationalizes by saying how he couldn't make those kids happy. And that really pisses me off because as far as I know, she's never really interacted with the kids and she's never really seen how the kids were before, like Shagdar and her started to link up, right? And how can she's just making things up to cope, really. And I guess whatever fits. And Shagdar walks in giddily to his new wife and the kid with the tickets he bought for the new movie. He has been trying to win over Girtle for some time, and Girtle seems like she's warmed up to him. She brings up a new tie that she bought for Shagdar, and Shagdar excitedly sports it, complimenting Girle's aesthetic choice, only to see her cherishing her late father's tie that he had worn on that day. How dare the fucking you, right? How dare the fucking Hortla? Just imagine, right? You're living with this new person, your like husband passed away. Hey, it's normal, it's okay, people find love, life continues. But like, I wouldn't really imagine bringing out my late husband's favorite tie and giving to the new person. Like, that just sounds like there's extra sense of neglect and extra whim. I just can't really put it into words. I just feel like that's weird. And Girtle picks up on that, and Girtle takes away her father's favorite tie and smells it. And that really just shows how deep the love she has for her father is, and it's never gonna be changed or finished. After realizing all the fun and games of having a new family with a civilized hot wife wears off eventually, he visits his own family for a change of scene, only to look stupid in an abandoned yard, because the factory that Surung worked at rewarded her with an apartment. Things are slowly picking up for the five, especially for Surung. She starts seeing Mr. Nerd, and Mr. Nerd is absolutely in love with Surung. He's what a man in love should be. Because nowadays, no one wants to stand behind a tree and ask their girl if she ever thinks about them. We need more conniving nerds with morals and messy hair. Surung is clearly and understandably standoffish, but a tender feeling of love does not get put down easily. So they linger about, and he asks her out again. Suddenly, her brothers come in and push him to the ground in a way of protecting her. But he gracefully comes back up and understandably says goodbye to Surung and leaves. And that just shows the character of that person. He's not getting too defensive. He understands like a perspective of the two younger brothers who wanted to protect her sister. He just understands everything, and he's just like, bye, Surung. Ah! Okay, let me stop. After understanding what they've done, they invite him over for dinner and serve him a very bitter and salty hoshor because they don't know how to cook. And this turns out to be a little bit of laughter and play for the kids as things have been quite uncertain for a while. Now they're in a good enough place to make a joy out of little mishaps. In the meantime, Surung and the guy, like I want to name him, but he's actually never really called his name in the movie, so I don't know. So Surung and him chit chat in a living room whilst looking at a photo album. So remember, guys, it was 80s and they had no Instagram. They had it all analog. You had to bring out your photo album, sift through the pictures, and verbally caption it. And it's like seeing someone go through your Instagram profile, but you have to see their reaction in real time. And also, you won't notice any notification popping up asking if they were still up on Tuesday. And you can clearly see it's woman's profile, and he quickly swipes it up, and you just have to observe the invisible gut punch. This has never happened to me before, I promise. Surung is finally warming up to him, and to top it all off, he gives her a gift that seals the deal. And it's the sweater that she had to sell earlier. With the scent of her mom still lingering, she sniffs a familiar love oozing from the sweater. The parallel of the scene to an early scene of Gürle is very delicate to me, because one always having to cling on to what she values so as not to lose it, the other one embracing its final return. So, what's there to wait? They get married, and on Surun's side, only her 4 brothers occupy a little space compared to the immediate and the extended family of the groom's side. And on the way to the wedding palace is Shagdar, still fighting himself in the rear view mirror of the car. He finally drives up to the wedding palace and quietly gazes at his kids, who locks eyes with him. But Surung turns away and focuses on the cameraman, who's here to capture her happiest moment yet, with tears running down. With her piercing gaze and an stern expression, and possibly a decision to fully move on for a better life, the movie ends with a beautiful score by Mongolian composition Jensen Noro. After the movie got released, the actress who played the Horlo gave interview about the movie, saying people would treat her bad in real life based on the character that she portrayed. That is interesting to me because it shows people are not ready to accept the real culprit of this whole debacle. Who do you think it is? Of course it's Shagdar. People even sympathize with him, saying he deserved happiness, he made the right choice, and how his wife Dolching was a bad wife. Because in the opening scene of the movie, we hear a conversation between her and Shagdar. Shagdar had bought an antique set of pen handles and a steel bottle from the market, and Dolching remarks it as him collecting random shits and that people look at them weird. Shagdar says that it was a part of history and the kids could learn their history and culture, from a pen handle. Okay, let me not laugh. And from this little misunderstanding, Dolching decided not to go to the puppet play, which was the start of Hortla and Shagdar's affair. So technically, had Dolching been more receptive to Shagdar's initiative and gone to the play, it may not have transpired in the way it did. But I think he would have done it with someone else. Maybe his coworker, maybe just someone else. Because, he has it in him, okay? And maybe Dolching should have been more supportive of his desires and hobby, and, just like he was a 12-year-old boy, and maybe Hortla shouldn't have had an affair with a married man. Just a bunch of maybes, should'ves, would've, could'ves. But the main lesson is that Shagdar ain't shit. Bye.